How's it going, everyone? Well, I'm making this video specifically about Goodwill scores, MP3s, and cameras, and I just couldn't resist making a video to share because I know there's a few Goodwill hounds out there who probably have a like-minded type. Let's just say when you go into a Goodwill, you never know what you're going to find, or any thrift store for that matter. And I was going to make a video where I was going to show all my favorite Goodwill scores. But over the last 10 years, I have so many, such a variety of things that would take me forever. I have a whole stack of receivers, stereos, and various little things out there. But I just wanted to cover a few of the things to look out for at Goodwill that I've found are awesome. And then finalizing with today's score. Those who have watched my channel might know that I found this Sony Handycam at Goodwill the other day for 50 bucks. It was the most I've spent on a camera probably. Well, the most I've spent at Goodwill probably ever, but you know, it was like a $1,000 camera when it came out. It's you know, takes a, I guess it's a Sony Pro Duo card, but basically an SD card. And I thought this will be phenomenal for making super high quality video because I had a little Panasonic just like this. The only disadvantage to buying at Goodwill is you might not get a cord for it, so I wasn't sure if it worked. But that was fine. I ordered some and I got a cord and some batteries and it's good to go. About 10 years ago, I went to Goodwill and I bought this. Now, at that time, this was in the display case. It was a Sony Handycam. The digital Handycam takes the high 8 and digital 8 tapes. It's a great little unit, you know, if you're willing to buy the tapes. But I've just watched how these things have progressed and how more high-tech has shown up just on the back shelf, just thrown in. In other words, 10 years ago, a small, cheap digital camera would be in the display case, and now there's 10 of them thrown in the back bin, well, at least 5 at any one time. And they're between 7 and 10 megapixels, so they're good cameras, and all different brands, Kodak, Nikon, but they're usually the smaller ones. But I picked this up about 10 years ago, used it to document my band and a bunch of other stuff. That was before digital cameras were really affordable in any major quantity of format. I mean, if you're going to record for a long time, tape was still the way to go for me. I upgraded about 5 years ago at Goodwill to this, which was a digital Handycam. This is a mini DV, so it takes the mini tapes. And I use this for all kinds of stuff. I've got a whole bin full of little tapes I use to record my kids growing up and whatnot. And then all of a sudden pictures became affordable. I mean, digital cameras became affordable. The camera that I use now is a little Panasonic Lumix, and it works phenomenal. I just love it. For when I bought this one, it was originally to do YouTube videos. And I've been doing them on that. The last 3 videos before this I did on this camera, but it doesn't have the same field of view as this camera, so I can sit this one closer to me and actually get a better field of view. I want to show this one because it was fun, and I bought it about a year ago at Goodwill. I mentioned it in a video the other day, but I'm going to show it again. This is awesome. It's a Mavica, a Sony digital Mavica, and it was one of the first ones with the selfie finder. Now listen to this sound when you turn it on. Hear that? I love that sound. That's like the old 8-bit sound. And then when you're going through the, you know, let's turn it back on again and put it up here. Love that. Anyway, you know, it's a pretty old school screen, but it's got a really interesting kind of a swivel screen type thing on it. But this is what's really cool about it. This thing runs not on SD cards, but yes, it takes 3.5-inch floppy disks. And I just found one the other day to finally try it out. Turns out you can take about 7 to 10 photos on a floppy disk before you have to get another one. And at the time, I mean, it has all the little settings on it and everything. I just think, man, people paid hundreds, if not over $1,000 for some of these cameras, and now you can find them for $5 in the back bin. And like I told my wife earlier, it's because of 2 things. Phones have made cameras and MP3 players obsolete. And therefore, that brings me to my next great score, which was the MP3 player. See, this is something I always look out for when I'm at Goodwill, which is a Bluetooth speakers. These are generally about $100 for this model. It's like the AR version, but I think they were like $100 new, and you can find them for like $5 to $7.99 or something at Goodwill. But when I was down there today, I found this. It's a creative Zen MP3 player. And for anybody who's an old school MP3, you know, this thing goes way back. I mean, it's this is one of the first, one of the first scrolling, and oh, I gotta wait for it to load. Takes a minute. Here we go. Just like the old iPods, right? Scrolls and up and down. This was $10. As you can see, it's rather large. It's very bulky and heavy. I plugged it in because it had the cord with it, which is pretty rare. And it started up, so I thought I'll buy it for $10. So I bought it, took it home, looked it up, found out that the 20 gig version of this was, I think, $400 when it came out. And so I think this one was most likely probably about $500. It weighs like, you know, a quarter pound. It's a pretty hefty little unit. I can hear the hard drive clicking in there, but it doesn't sound damaged or anything. It's a pretty phenomenal little unit. But anyhow, here was the beautiful thing. I took it home, plugged it into my computer, and it has over 380 albums. I think it was 389 albums on it. Everything from Led Zeppelin to Leo Kottke to, you know, No Doubt, and a whole bunch of random stuff I don't really listen to. You know, I don't listen to pop rock, but there's quite a bit of pop, Rihanna kind of stuff on there. But it's just endless free music. 389 albums, 20 gigabytes of free music, and I thought 389 albums, if you bought that, would be $3,000. You know, and so I'm really grateful for the $3,000 of music plus the $500 unit for a total price of $9.99. So I guess this is partially a bragging video to say, look what I got at Goodwill, but it's also kind of an inspiration, you know, to other people. There was what I would call the golden age of Goodwill, and it was about 5 to 10 years ago, in that realm. This was the time when a lot of old vintage stuff was starting to show up, but they weren't quite aware of how valuable it was yet. And the guys in the back room, for example, couldn't just go look on their phones to say, oh, I wonder what this is worth, and decide they're going to keep it themselves, or, you know, mark it up really high priced. And I know they look them up on the internet, because if they didn't, they wouldn't be pricing, you know, some name brand product so high when it's really a crappy version of that product. So in other words, the guys in the back room seem to think that they're the best pricers, and they do a horrible job sometimes and price things like twice what they would be worth even in the store, new. But sometimes they price something about 1/10 of what it's worth used, and that's where it comes down to here. You got to know what's worth things. I mean, I walk past plates and bowls and silverware in Goodwill when I'm going to the stereo section that are probably worth a fortune, because I don't know what to look for. And there are people who have their whole lives, you know, that's how they make their income. They go into Goodwill, they know what to look for, or thrift stores, or Craigslist, or whatever, and then they go and resell stuff. I can't do that. I just can't stand buying and reselling products to individuals. It's just such a hassle. But some of the things that you get for yourself can be, you know, a really great price. So this little Zen thing, for me, is phenomenal. Namely because I still have a Zune. And I'll be the first to say I've had this Zune since it came out. And I stood up for Microsoft when they created this piece of shit. It worked great for a while, and then they stopped updating, and they stopped giving any support for their products, and basically failed in the market. So I've never had a real MP3 player. I mean, I've never had an iPod. I don't like Apple products. I don't need another whole program, you know, iTunes and everything, but I like plug-and-play stuff, and that's what I like about this Zen thing. I can just plug it in, and it's got all the music, and yeah, the battery still holds a charge on it. So, as far as anything else that I've found, I don't really have anything else here to share. I do have this one thing I found, which was, as silly as it is, I actually bought a portable DVD player at Goodwill today. It was $7, and as you can see, it's got a lot of different plugs on the side. And the fact that they're gold-plated, and it's got the AV in and out, and the Bitstream PCM plug-in, 2 headphone jacks. That tells me that it's a... Boy, I hope this thing isn't broken. But anyhow, It's got a swivel screen and everything, so I thought it would be great for the bus. I'm going to put it in the school bus for the kids. And so I guess my whole point here is that stuff gets cheaper as time goes on. And it's not really worth being obsessed with always having the new products when they come out, at least in my opinion. But I'm ever grateful that those people exist, because they flood the market with other products. When they buy the newest, they dump the rest of theirs at Goodwill, and guys like me can buy it for dirt cheap. So thank you. I guess it's the same way I feel about people who buy new cars. I don't understand the concept of buying a new car, but I'll be more than glad to buy it a year later for half the price from you. So I'll talk to y'all later, and let me know about your Goodwill experiences, your best finds. That shit's always interesting to me. Talk to y'all later. Have a good one. Oh, stereo receivers, old vintage receivers, and like turntables. Those were the golden years, things at Goodwill. I could go in there and find all kinds of beautiful stuff. It was when Goodwill started their online auction site that all that fell apart. They send all their best stuff to the auction site. So more than that, people just, they're getting harder to find. I have a whole stack of old vintage silver-faced receivers out in the garage, and if anybody's interested, I guess I could make a video about that sometime. It's just, you know, stereo people are limited. I'm kind of a sound fanatic, so with that I bid you farewell. Talk to y'all soon. Have a good one. Carpo's channels, Carpo's channels, Carpo's channels, Carpo's channels, Carpo's channels.